Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, we all know that feeling of hitting nothing but green lights on your way someplace in the car. How would you like to hit nothing but green lights with your taxes? We'll be talking to the co-founders of the Greenlight Tax Group next.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, if you're a business owner, listen up to this next show because we're going to be talking about all things taxes with the co-founders of the Greenlight Tax Group, Demrie Henry and Joel Gilhang. Thanks for coming into the studio today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Jeff.
Well, it seems like, when they first came out with taxes, it was you could fill it out with one sheet of paper. And now you really need a professional to help you, don't you?
Oh, absolutely.
Let's start with you, Gilhang. You started this tax group with a name Greenlight, and that's a very positive name. Tell us about that.
Sure. It actually evolved from my introduction to a tax attorney in Cincinnati, and we were talking about how different groups do tax planning, and he coined the phrase red light and green light CPAs. And I asked him, well, what do you mean by red light, green light CPAs? And his response was, well, red light CPAs tend to be more just tax preparers. Well, they'll just take your history, put the correct numbers in the box, whereas green light CPAs, before they put the numbers in the box, they'll do some tax planning first. And so being in the tax world from 2003 to 2013, that's what appealed to me. I had felt that more businesses, individuals, families needed more tax planning before we did the tax preparation.
Yeah.
And then therefore, I asked the tax attorney, hey, did you trademark that name, Greenlight?
Yeah.
He's like, no? Well, thanks. And so hung up, and I'm taking that name.
No, it's a great name. It's a great name. And Demrie, some people say, oh, my CPA does my taxes. But sometimes CPAs don't know all the stuff that you guys know.
Well, that's absolutely right. In fact, there's a lot of CPAs, people don't know this, but many of them don't ever take any law or any classes in tax law. So they don't actually know tax law. What they do is they know tax code, they fill in the boxes, and they make sure everything on the tax return is correct. But like Joel said, they don't take a proactive approach and really implement any strategies to help folks minimize their tax liability.
Demrie, you were telling me a story right before the show. Would you share that again on a client you helped?
Oh, yes, absolutely. It's a great story. So our very first client, actually, we were looking at their tax returns. We were talking to them about all of their issues and some of the frustrations that they had. And they had mentioned early last year that they didn't qualify for the PPP. And we said, hey, why don't you give us your tax returns and let's look at your financials and let's see what we can come up with. So we took all of their documents, we did some analysis, gave all the returns to our top tax guy, and he looked at it and said, great news, we can get you qualified. So we got them over $500,000 in PPP when just a month prior they were told by their previous CPA that they didn't qualify.
Wow, that had to be a happy phone call.
Oh yeah, we were all kind of doing a happy dance.
I love it.
Sure.
Joel, what's your passion?
So my background, being in the financial planning and investment world, I gravitated towards the tax planning side of my practice. And one of the problems that I felt from a lot of my clients that are business owners or independent contractors has always been tax planning. And so I realized that, my high energy in giving advice, giving solutions was going to be doubling down on, doing tax planning. I felt that a lot of individuals, business owners, have a lot of high anxiety. So if I can help facilitate lowering their anxiety, lowering their stress, increasing the bottom line on their business, that's one of my passions.
And there's probably a lot of concern right now about what the administration is going to do with the tax code. Do you want to address that, Demrie?
Absolutely. And, I feel like that's an ongoing concern, right? I mean, I feel like if we look back in years prior, that's always something that is on somebody's mind about what's going to happen in the future, which is why it's so critical to really be planning for the future and understanding how, there are different things that you can utilize in the tax code to really help you with your business and even your personal situation.
Absolutely. And Demrie is something of a national thought leader. We've got a shot of you on a Fox News station, I think, in Miami.
I love it.
So you've done a ton of interviews lately.
I have it's tax season, so, it's been very topical.
Well, that has to feel good to be giving advice like that one is from Miami, to be giving interviews all over the country.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been super fun.
I know one of the topics was things that you don't want to deduct, because sometimes that can be a big red flag. As far as businesses are concerned, what are some things that you would not want to deduct because it could be a glaring red flag?
You want to take that one? You want me to?
I don't think there's anything that, from a glaring standpoint that we want to make sure that, when we go to our CPAs, that whatever the disposition is of the client.
Yes.
I think that is going to be the most important. If the client feels that, hey, I don't want to be so aggressive with my planning, then we make sure that our tax team sticks with their disposition. Whereas most of our clients, hey, I want to know what are my, all my options, and then therefore I can decide whether those are the tax plans that I feel comfortable with.
Right.
I know one of the interviews I listened to, Demrie, was where's my refund, and the problems with the IRS right now. I mean, people are still waiting for last year's refund.
Correct, and that's for a number of reasons. I mean, the backlog in the IRS is really massive right now. So there's a lot of unprocessed tax returns from last year. And then there's other issues because some people are still filing the paper returns, which creates delays. And then we've seen issues where people aren't getting their tax returns processed because just simple math errors, that they don't fill out the returns properly. So there's errors, and then that puts them kind of in another pile. And then we've even seen things like identity theft, where we have a couple of clients actually who they filed their returns only to find out that somebody else had utilized their dependents on their tax return. So they're now having issues trying to go back to the IRS saying, hey, wait a minute, those are my dependents.
Yes. Oh, that's fascinating. And now I want to talk about the Under the Greenlight podcast, because you do it in our studios. Tell us about that. And I think you named it. Is that right, Joel?
Sure. It was just writing a bunch of names on a cocktail napkin, what made sense, and Demrie decided to run with Under the Greenlight. But our whole goal was to interview business owners and just actually have them just share their story. We feel that the podcast world, in my opinion, has been where I see the successful ones is where they're just telling me a story and I can just listen to it for hours. And that's really what our goal is with our guests, is just share their story, how they got started, what they like about the business, what they don't,
And I understand you came up with the name, and then you said, okay, Demrie, it's all yours. Because you have a radio background, is that right?
Well, I do have a radio background, but it's in sales and marketing.
Okay.
And every once in a while, I actually did get on the radio to do a few bits, but I always change my name so nobody would know who I was. But
She has a great voice.
She does. Yeah.
You do too. You're kind of deep. Yeah. So, well, that's great. Where do you see the podcast going? What are some of your objectives?
Well, I mean, we just want to keep growing and having fun with it. Like Joel said, it really is a podcast about business owners for business owners, and we just want to be able to tell their story, because all of the folks that we run into, they really have amazing stories about how they got started in making the decision to be an entrepreneur. A lot of them come from corporate America. So it's just really fun and interesting to hear all of those personal stories and the struggles and the challenges, and then how they're solving those problems.
Outstanding. Joel, final thoughts.
Sure. We just view Greenlight as an opportunity for anyone that's a 1099 contractor, independent contractor, a business owner that feels that, hey, maybe there are some mistakes or opportunities that I've missed. Therefore, I'd like to have a group of specialists take a look and see what are my mistakes, what are my opportunities, so that I can save on the bottom line.
Outstanding. Well, you've been amazing guests, and congrats on the success of your show. We're going to end with the website, which is gltaxgroup.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you, Jeff.
And that's it for now. We'll see you next time.